Hi everyone, it's Tara with Secret Bee Studio, and I'm here today to give you a tutorial on how to make this beautiful journal, Traveler's Notebook style. I am using the new I Am paper collection by Simple Stories with its gorgeous rose gold accents and beautiful embellishments. I'm going to show you how I made the cover and laminated it, and how I created my pockets and tags for the inside. I made another notebook very similar to this one using the Simple Stories Travel Notes collection. It is a traveler's journal / mini scrapbook, and you can see that process video as well on my YouTube channel. The basic concepts are the same for this notebook. This one's just a little bit larger, and I will be going into more specifics between the two notebooks later in the video. Like I said before, I'm using the new Simple Stories I Am paper collection. I'm using some of the 12 by 12 sheets, the 6 by 8 mini notebook, the bits and pieces, lots of the stickers, and I'm also using the new Carpe Diem Traveler's Notebook inserts. These inserts come in a 2-pack, and they measure 8¼ inches by 5 inches, and one has dot grid pages and the other one has lined pages. These are a few more of the supplies that you will be using. These are basic paper crafting supplies to make your notebook. I am also going to be using the standard 8.5 by 11 laminating pouches, along with a full-size Mink machine for today's tutorial. Some other supplies that you will need for this tutorial are some elastic cording. I bought mine at Joann, and it comes in a variety of colors, plus an elastic closure that goes around the entire cover of the Traveler's Notebook to keep it closed. To make the cover of your Traveler's Notebook, you're going to start with a piece of patterned paper. These are 12 by 12, which we will cut down in a later step. In choosing your patterned paper, make sure that the front and the back side both have full patterns on them, as this will be laminated in clear and both sides will show. Because I'm using inserts that measure 8¼ by 5 inches, I want to be sure and cut my patterned paper with at least a ½ inch allowance all the way around. You can buy smaller Traveler Notebook inserts, and in my last Traveler's Notebook, made with the Travel Notes collection, I did use a smaller notebook, and I was able to use a piece of paper that measured 8.5 by 11 to make my cover. For today's tutorial, we're going to be cutting this 12 by 12 sheet down to 9 inches in length and leaving it the 12 inches in width, so that once the notebook is closed, it will be about 6 inches wide. This length and width allowance will just make sure that once the notebook is folded closed, nothing is sticking out on the sides or the top and bottom. Decorating the cover of your notebook is totally optional, but it's a great way to add some decoration and a little bit of your personality into it. I would suggest that because we are laminating this, that you only use flat embellishments, like stickers or the bits and pieces of this collection. I would avoid using anything thick, such as chipboard or flowers, because the laminate will just get all bumpy and warped over those areas. Keep in mind that laminating your cover is totally optional as well. I do it just because it gives it extra strength and durability, as it will be opened and closed quite a few times. You could alternately take 2 pieces of the patterned paper and sew them together for extra strength. Once you've decided on all of your embellishments for your cover, make sure you use a little bit of adhesive to hold them in place so that they don't move around once they are placed in the laminating pouches or go through the laminating machine. You can also apply a little bit of decoration to the back cover as well, just keeping in mind again that you don't want to use anything too thick so that the laminating material goes smoothly over it. Now I'm going to be rounding the corners of my Traveler's Notebook using a corner chomper. Again, this is totally optional. It's just a look that I really like. Before we laminate the cover of the Traveler's Notebook, we need to mark the spots where we will be punching holes for the elastic cording that hold the notebooks and the pockets in place. You can use a ruler for this, or you can simply use your traveler's notebook inserts. Because this page is 12 inches wide, I'm just going to mark the center of the page at 6 inches at both the top and the bottom. I will also be marking the center of the length of this piece of patterned paper. And because this is 9 inches, I'm going to put a mark at 4.5 inches. We will not be punching a hole here. This is just to make sure everything lines up really well. I'm also going to make a small mark on the center of my traveler's notebook just to make sure that everything lines up really well. Because this is 8.25 inches in length, I'm going to make a mark at the 4 1/8 inch. Now, using the center mark on your insert, line that up with the center mark of the pattern paper and make sure your top and bottom marks fit the length of the insert. You may need to make different marks than the original ones at the top and bottom. Erase all of the marks you won't be punching holes in, as otherwise they will show. As I said before, I'm using a full-size ink machine to laminate the cover of my traveler's notebook, so I have to load everything into a transfer folder before putting it through the machine. As my cover is 9 inches by 12 inches and I'm using regular size laminating sheets, I have to cut 2 down to size to fit over my cover. I take one and leave it at the 8.5 inch width, but cut it down to 9.5 inches in length. I then take a second laminating sheet and cut it to 4.5 inches in width and 9.5 inches in length. I use the larger of the laminating sheets for the cover of my traveler's notebook so that crease will be on the back side. Try to place the front cover of your notebook into the laminating sheet as evenly as possible on the top and side, just to eliminate a lot of trimming. Then you can place your other laminating sheet on the back cover. You're going to have a little bit of overlap. That's why we cut extra length, because we will be trimming some of that away. Make sure that everything is nice and pressed down before you load it into the transfer folder. This will help eliminate any air bubbles or wrinkles in your laminate. Again, once you put it inside the transfer folder, make sure that it's smooth and flat as well to eliminate any wrinkling or bubbling of the laminate. I use the highest temperature setting of 5 on my ink machine to laminate this cover, and I ran it through twice as well to make sure that back seam was sealed very well. Once you have your cover laminated and you make sure that seam is well sealed, go ahead and take a paper trimmer and cut off any excess material at the edges of the notebook. If you rounded the corners of the patterned paper of your traveler's notebook, make sure you round the corners of the laminate as well. Now find those marks that you made before laminating, and using a Crop-A-Dial, punch holes for the elastic. I use the small hole punch of my Crop-A-Dial to punch the holes. Now after I punched the holes and before I put the elastic in, I also added some small grommets. This is just for extra strength, but it's totally optional, as it should be pretty strong because you already have the laminate covering the patterned paper. You will also need to punch a hole in the back cover of your notebook for the elastic closure that goes all the way around your notebook to keep it closed. I try to find a spot in the center of the notebook that doesn't cover too much of the embellishments. This hole will be punched in the back of your notebook, and it will be about a 1/2 inch from the edge. I use the large hole punch of my Crop-A-Dial to punch the hole, and then take the metal end of that elastic closure and just thread it through the hole so that the metal piece is on the inside back cover of your notebook. For the elastic cording in your traveler's notebook, you're going to need about 4 times the length of the notebook. Simply measure that amount out and then cut it with scissors. To thread the elastic, take one end from the outside bottom hole of the notebook to the inside, pull it to the top hole and go back out. Then take the other loose end of the elastic and thread it from the outside top hole in. Make sure it has a good enough length on it, or hold on to it so it doesn't pull back out of the hole. Then take the end of the elastic that is on the outside of the notebook and thread it back into the bottom hole so that the ends will meet in the middle of the inside of the notebook. Tie them together in a knot, making sure the elastic is taut, not too loose or too tight, as this is what will be holding everything in place. Once you have your knot tied, just trim off the ends. Take your traveler's notebook insert and just make sure that it fits inside the elastic. I made 3 folder inserts for my traveler's notebook journal with 2 pockets on each folder. I wanted to keep these the same size as my notebook inserts, so I made them to be 8 1/4 by 5 inches once folded. When choosing paper for these folders, make sure that there's a full pattern on both the front and the back, as you will be seeing both sides of this paper. To make the folder inserts, you take a 12 by 12 pattern piece of paper and cut it to 8 1/4 inches in length by 10 inches in width. Once you have all of your patterned pieces of paper cut, use a scoreboard, put your 10-inch side at the top, and score down the center at 5 inches. Then fold all of your pieces of paper in half at the score line. I made 3 different types of pockets for my folders, 1 square, 1 angled, and 1 round. You can choose to make all 3 if you'd like, or just do 1, but I will show you how I made all 3. For my folder pockets, I like them to have a bit of room in them. I give them an additional 1/4 inch on each side of the width and an additional 1/4 inch on the bottom of the length. This will allow some extra room on the inside of the pocket. I will show you how this is done here in just a little bit. For the square pocket, go ahead and choose a coordinating pattern to match your folder paper. I generally like my pockets to be about 3 to 3.5 inches in height, but you are free to make your pocket as tall or as short as you would like. This is a scrap piece of paper, so this pocket ends up being about 3 1/4 inches in height. The inside width of our folder is 5 inches, so we're going to make our pocket just slightly smaller than that so that nothing hangs over the edge. I know in the video it shows that I cut this piece of paper to 5.5 inches, but I end up trimming it again off the video. It really needs to be cut at 5 3/8 inches, and then it's going to be scored a 1/4 inch on either side and a 1/4 inch at the bottom. So it ends up being 4 7/8 inches in width and 3 1/4 inches in length. Once you have all of the edges scored, go ahead and fold those for a nice crease. Then we're going to cut the excess off at the bottom corners. So just using a pair of scissors, we're going to cut at an angle, and this will just help those scored and folded areas to fold in better without overlap. Next, take the adhesive of your choice and apply it to the outside edges of the patterned paper that will be showing in the pocket. This is because we will be folding those edges over, and that's what will be adhering to the inside of the folder. I use Scor tape because it holds so well, but there are lots of really great adhesives out there, so feel free to use whatever is your favorite. Once you have all of your adhesive applied, go ahead and trim any excess that you need to. Fold those scored edges over and then adhere this pocket to the inside of your folder as shown. The extra 1/4 inch that we put on the side and the bottom of our pocket just give us extra room to store things. The next pocket that I'm going to show you is an angled pocket, and we're going to do this one basically the same, making sure that we leave a 1/4 inch extra on the bottom and a 1/4 inch extra on each side. So choose a coordinating paper and cut it to 5 3/8 inches in width and 5 1/4 inches in length. Once you have that piece of paper cut, score the bottom at 1/4 inch and score each side at 1/4 inch. Fold the paper at your score lines and then go ahead and again trim off the corners at the bottom. To make the angle, go approximately 2 inches to 2¼ inches from the bottom of one side up to the very top corner of the other using a pair of scissors or a paper trimmer. Apply your adhesive, trim off any excess, and then go ahead and adhere to the inside of your folder. The last pocket I show has a rounded edge, and I cut this one to the same measurements as I did the last one, 5 3/8 inches in width by 5 1/4 inches in height. You can use anything to make the rounded edge. You can eyeball it, and in my case, I just use a roll of tape and mark it off just to give me an idea of how I want to cut this rounded edge. Once you have marked off that round corner, go ahead and take your scissors and simply cut away the excess, making sure you trim away to the roundness that you like around that edge. Again, once that is done, go ahead and use your scoreboard and score 1/4 inch off the bottom and 1/4 inch on each side. Fold those score lines and then trim away the excess at the 2 bottom corners before applying your adhesive and adhering to the inside of the folder, just as before. I make a total of 6 pockets, 3 more just like these, 1 square, 1 angled, and 1 rounded, and I put them on the opposite sides of the folders, which you can see in the walkthrough of this notebook in the beginning of the video. Now I dress up my notebook inserts with the patterned paper of the collection, but again, this is totally optional. You could leave them blank if you wanted. I just take 2 pieces of paper that are cut slightly smaller than the 8 1/4 by 5, and I round the 2 outside corners to match the outside corners of the notebook inserts. And then I simply use some strong adhesive and adhere them to the front covers of each notebook. Once that is complete, I use some of the other patterned paper and embellishments from the collection to just decorate the fronts of these notebooks. Now for each pocket of this notebook, I created a little flip book or a tag, and I'm going to show you how I made those. These cute flip books can be used for either journaling or photographs, and they are made using 2 pieces of patterned paper. The larger piece is 4½ inches by 6 3/4 inches, and the other piece is simply a 4 by 6 element card from the paper collection. For the flip books, you're going to take the larger piece of 4½ inch by 6 3/4 inch paper and score 1/4 inch at the top of each of those. This will be folded over and attached to the 4 by 6 element card, creating the flip. Once you have those pieces scored, go ahead and fold them over, and then you're going to apply adhesive just to the area where the 4 by 6 card will fit. Otherwise, you could apply adhesive to the top of the 4 by 6 card and then fold over the flap to stick it together. I applied my adhesive to the inside flap of the larger piece of paper, and so I had a little bit of excess once I attached it to the 4 by 6 element card. If this is the case, simply take an adhesive remover and remove those little bits of excess adhesive that you have on that flap. The tags that I created for these pockets are 4 inches by 6 1/4 inches, and they're very, very simple to make. I stacked all of my pieces of patterned paper together and cut off one corner to form the tag shape. I then took one piece of that corner that I cut, put it over on the other side just to get a matching corner, and cut that as well. I then used my Crop-A-Dial and punched a hole at the top of all 3 tags. Then comes the fun part, pulling in all of your fun decorations and embellishments to really dress up these tags and flip books. The last piece that I will show you how to create is a fun interactive element for the front of your notebook. For the background, I cut a piece of patterned paper to 4.5 inches by 6.5 inches. And then I find a run of either horizontal or vertical 3x4 element cards for this interactive element. Keeping those 3x4 element cards in one piece, use your score tool and score them where they connect to each other. Fold on the score lines, keeping the front of the element cards to the outside. Before sticking on my 3x4 fold out element, I just put a little bit of washi tape on my background for decoration. Put some adhesive on the back side of that very last element of that 3x4 pull out, and then adhere it to your background. Once that is adhered to your background, go ahead and decorate and embellish it to your heart's content. I use some of the chipboard to make a little tab that shows that this can be pulled in and out. I also add additional stickers and embellishments. Now this is going to go on the inside front cover of our traveler's notebook, and because it's laminated, it would be really hard to get anything to stick and stay for any amount of time. So I attach this to the inside cover with a decorative paper clip. And then I simply add one of the tags from the bits and pieces of the collection and a little bit of ribbon. And it looks beautiful. Thanks for checking out my tutorial. I hope you really enjoyed it, and I hope you create a beautiful traveler's notebook journal of your very own. Please let me know on my YouTube channel if you have any questions on this tutorial. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.